Nou goed, de Chefs with Compassion is 'n organisasie wat hande vat met Suid-Afrika se beste chefs en om gesonde geregte en gemeenskap te bring wat nie voorreg het tot etes nie. En een van daai chefs wat betrokke is Sjef Coo Pillay. En vanoggend gesels ons met hom oor die werk wat Chefs with Compassion doen. Good morning, Chef.
Good morning.
Before we get into Chefs with Compassion, I just want to get to know you a little bit better. Where did your passion for cooking and food start?
Well, it actually started growing up in a very large family, in a large Indian family. And as you know, everything's about food. And I also had the opportunity of growing up on a farm. My dad's a farmer. So, growing up with the abundance of fresh produce all around you, getting the best ingredients and and just learning, all the techniques from grannies and aunts and my dad specifically. It was just a passion that just, got bigger and bigger as I grew up.
Chef, you say you enjoy working with the honesty and quality of the product itself and letting the real product shine. I know we're talking about Chefs with Compassion, but I just want to talk about this for a second. I'm tired of people killing ingredients as far as they can and then telling you that it's lovely. Tell us more. Why is the honesty of a single ingredient for you that important?
Well, that's my integrity when it comes to food, is that respect ingredients first before we actually, get overshadowed by our passion and our excitement. Because I think, with no discredit to chefs out there, I mean, everyone's very good at their craft. But I think sometimes, we get overwhelmed and we actually, kill a dish before it's even actually put on a plate. And I think we need to honor the ingredient and showcase that ingredient and, and at the same time, you showcase yourself.
It was so lovely when you mentioned earlier, that you learned some techniques from grannies and family and on the farm, the fresh produce. But when you started making your career and in your training, who were some of your mentors and what are some of the lessons you learned from them?
So I was quite fortunate. My mentor is Chef Sean Monroe, who's currently based in KwaZulu-Natal. And he always said to me, keep it simple. And that's a lesson that I have carried throughout my career. I've had the opportunity of working with numerous chefs, but Chef Sean's, mantra of keeping it simple has got me through. And I think that's where I pride myself in showcasing what I do, showcasing my heritage, and also adapting to my travels. And because I've had the opportunity of working around the country and also showcasing the ingredients of the regions that I've been to.
Chef, you mentioned integrity, you mentioned honesty. All of that ties in very nicely with Chefs with Compassion. Tell us more about the project. Just a quick brief for the viewers out there. You are providing meals to people who can't necessarily provide it themselves.
Absolutely. And this is why I'm so passionate to be part of Chefs of Compassion. So just to give you a little bit of a stat, and it's actually quite a concerning stat that here in South Africa, we have a very high food wastage, but at the same time, almost 20 million people are food insecure. And you ask yourself, how are we throwing away so much? And I'm talking millions of tons of food a year when almost half of our population are food insecure. And, when the lockdown happened back in 2020, a lot of people were left destitute almost overnight. As you know, a lot of industries had to shut down. People lost their jobs, lost their income. And those 20 million actually grew exponentially overnight. And this is where we came together. And as you know, at the time, the hospitality industry was one of the hardest hit industries. Restaurants had to shut down, hotels had to close. So we had all of these chefs, who were constantly busy. And then all of a sudden, we've come to a complete standstill. And this is where we said, listen, let's do something. Let's do something for good. We've got all this food and nowhere to go. And when I say food waste, I'm not talking food in the bins. I'm actually talking good produce, from farms, from manufacturers, from retailers that are there, but nowhere to go. And unfortunately, it ends up onto the landfill. And this is how we started our initiative based on 3 principles, which is rescue, cook, and feed. So the rescue part is where we go out to these various manufacturers and farms and retailers, and we rescue the produce before they would then dispose of it, and we then bring it into our warehouse. We have it prepped, and then it gets transported to our various kitchens, and that's where the cook part comes in, and the chefs get together and we prepare meals. And most importantly as well, we also ensure that the meals that are cooked are not just put together into a pot and created a soup or whatever the case may be, but we ensure that the meals that we produce are healthy, are nutritional, and most importantly, hearty, because some of the people, as I mentioned, don't have constant access to food all the time. So we need to ensure that the meals that we prepare, sustain them for a few more days.
Chef, how many meals have you distributed so far?
So since we started in May 2020 to date, we have done just over 4.9 million meals.
My goodness, that's in 2 years' time.
Yeah, 2.5 years, yeah.
That is unbelievable. How do you decide where to go, who to help? It must be rather challenging. I mean, the need is so big.
Absolutely. So currently we operate in the greater Gauteng area, covering most of the Johannesburg areas and Pretoria. We have over the time also assisted other regions in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal when they were hit with the unrest as well as the floods. We sent out aid. We sent various trucks of food from Johannesburg down to various areas in KwaZulu-Natal. And we also mobilized our chefs down there to come together and also do good for their communities. We also were able to assist a community in the Western Cape. But the need, as you say, it grows every day, and we want to expand so that we have a national footprint that we can do good and rescue, cook, and feed wherever we are based.
That's just incredible. It's really nice to hear that you use your talents to assist other people. What would be your biggest need at this stage as Chefs with Compassion? Is it more cooks? Is it finances? Is it assistance to distribute the meals? What is the Chefs with Compassion's biggest need?
Well, as you can imagine, it's quite a huge initiative because just the logistics behind the rescuing of produce and then distributing of these meals. So we are in dire need of finances at the moment because the finances keep us going. As you know, the fuel price has increased exponentially over the last 2.5 years, and that's one of our major expenses. I also mentioned earlier that all the produce comes to our warehouse, which we actually call our share house because it's about sharing. But we've got rental that's attached to that. We've got utilities that's attached to that. And as you can imagine, with the effects of load shedding, we've got to constantly have generators on standby to also power up our fridges and cooling mechanisms. So, and then also we have a network of volunteers. And what Chefs of Compassion does, because we are so grateful for these volunteers that come out to either assist us by rescuing, they meet us at the markets, they meet us at the farms, or also, distributing the meals. So what we do, we provide them a transport stipend. So we are in need of finances, but we also are in need of any organization or corporate or individual that is able to assist us with any of these services that I mentioned, be it transportation, be it fuel, or even be it, allowing us a venue where we can operate our numerous warehouses from.
One of the most hardworking group of people on the planet, I think, are chefs. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of work you do. And it's heartwarming to hear that just a bit of petrol money will actually have a chef there, and they'll be there and they'll volunteer to help. It's truly remarkable. Are there any other organizations you work with? Are you on your own, or are you part of a bigger network?
So A lot of our beneficiaries are organizations in their own right, and they do very good work on the ground. So we partner with them when it comes to the meal distribution because they are quite entrenched in the communities and in the local areas. So we actually partner with our network of beneficiaries. But we have in the past also worked with organizations such as SA Harvest, who have done fantastic work and continue to do that, especially around our Mandela Day initiative, which is hashtag 67,000 liters, which we partnered with SA Harvest in our first year. So we do work with organizations, both large and small, and this is what it's all about. This is not a business empire that we're trying to take over. We are in a charity space. We need to do good for those, and this is where the spirit of Ubuntu actually comes together. We work together to do good for the betterment of our society.
Wow. Sjef, thank you very much for taking some time to speak to us about this wonderful project, Chefs with Compassion. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Daar het jy dit, elkeen kan tog 'n verskil maak as ons almal so 'n bietjie saamwerk. Dit was natuurlik Sjef Coo Pillay van Chefs with Compassion. Gaan loer gerus, soek hulle op en kyk die verskil wat hulle maak.